You're listening to The Lowdown, a podcast inspired by the creative people in the bass making community. I'm Frankie. I'll be sitting down with bass makers to explore what drives them creatively and to find out what challenges they face in business of bass. Let's find out what it's all about. Let's get The Lowdown. Welcome to The Lowdown. I'm Frankie, and I'm sans Eric today. Eric had some issues, and that's okay. We're going to go it alone. I am super stoked. We have Pamela and Leigh Maples here from Fanny's House of Music in Nashville, Tennessee. And my goodness, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Yeah. What a pleasure.
My pleasure.
A show about basses. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, what's not to like, and how could this not succeed?
Tell me, Frankie, you play bass, and we'll be okay.
Yes, I definitely play bass. I've been attempting to play bass since I was like 12 years old, which is a very long time ago, you know, as you can probably guess by the white beard at this point.
I see the white beard. Well, I have white hair myself.
Well, it's unavoidable. What can you do?
There you go.
It's all right. Now, how the two of you meet and decide to, put together a music store and all that kind of cool stuff?
We first met in college in
1982. Uh-huh.
I remember 1982. Yeah.
Yeah, we met the third day of college. I'd heard that there was another female bass player actually on campus, which was unusual at the time. And so when I finally met her, then it was like, oh, you're the one. And then I'd already started. I kind of was more of a singer than a bass player at the time, and I couldn't do both at the same time, unfortunately.
It's hard. I mean,
it's the worst.
But it's such a melodic thing. Like, to me, I liken it to try to play a guitar solo at the same time and sing a totally different melody. Good luck. Good luck to you.
Right.
Yeah.
But then, then you see Esperanza, you know.
Yeah, you watch Esperanza Spalding, and you're like, okay, I quit.
Yeah.
You know,
anyway,
so
and that's it. Like Geddy Lee, I was.
Yeah, Geddy was the first one. Yeah.
But for him, it becomes a matter of like, they recorded an album, and then he just has to, like, as you would say, woodshed the heck out of it, just to, try to make it into like a new muscle memory. Get the vocals so the bass part's so down that you can just like forget about it. Yeah. Essentially, because you have just hits in strange places, And, it's just a whole. I think I would have an easier time playing an instrument that I'm not even any good at.
Absolutely. I can sing and play guitar. Yeah, I can sing and play a little bit of piano, but bass, nah, can't do it. But Leigh, she'll sit and figure out the background vocals, and she's more patient.
Figure out what syllable of the word I play on what note.
On what note.
Well, it's a talent, that's for sure. I mean, it's probably more hard won for some than others. I mean, it's always been a struggle for me too. And you're not the first bass player I've heard that's a struggle for.
Oh yeah, no, we hear a lot of it. So we became friends then, and stayed friends, forever. And
that's so
like
cool.
12 years ago. The story goes, and it is a true story, that we were in a drive-through and a coffee place, and I saw a billboard for another music store here in Nashville. And by this time, I haven't played in a long time, but I was kind of in more of the music business part of things, and had even dropped out of that for a while. But Leigh still has always played, and I saw a billboard for another store, and I said, whoever opens a store that's comfortable for everybody, including female players, wouldn't that be great? And I think they might do okay. So we kind of paused. There was kind of air sucked out of the car, and we looked at each other and went, oh no,
we're going to do it.
I think it's supposed to be us. So.
Well, that's the thing. You kind of go through the stages of like, oh, what a great, exciting idea. Then you realize, wow, that's a lot of work.
It is all small business, though, as you already know, and Eric Eric knows.
There's no doubt about it.
It's juggling cats and not a lot of support sometimes. So you just, we're in our office right now, which is the shipping department, the accounting department, the inventory department,
The
employee kitchen.
kitchen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're in an old house in Nashville. So yeah. So this was the kitchen and it still is, but it's everything else that has to get done. So
Gotta be all singing, all dancing.
that's right.
The repair bench is in there.
Repair bench, yeah, it's here too.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that I mean, obviously, if you're gonna have a music store anywhere, I'm thinking Nashville, Tennessee is probably like the place to do it. I mean, in terms of like, there's, back in the 80s, we'll go back to the 80s again. I mean, I live up here in Maine, and back then, I mean, there was a half dozen or so music stores within 20 minutes. You could go into a music store and play an alembic, or a Jackson, or a Spectre, or a Warwick, or a Gibson, or anything. But now you can't. It just really doesn't exist anymore. Which kind of stinks.
It's hard, it is hard, and they've taken music out of schools, and but the internet, I think, hopefully inspires. Well, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said they were talking about these kids knowing all the old music, and I'm like, it was Guitar Hero.
Yeah, right.
It brought back a lot of stuff.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, a friend of mine, similar kind of situation where I met him, and he had used to do music wholesale. So we were wholesale reps for a number of different things, and for New England and New York State. And like, he went through some health issues, and one day he just decided, like, geez, I'm just tired of being on the road all the time. And pretty much he asked me, like, hey, if his wife's name is Pam, and it was like, if I decide to open a music store, would you come and manage a store for me? I'm like, yeah, I would totally do that. But boy, just like, it's just it's such an undertaking, to get started. And especially, like, do you have teachers, and like, do you do lessons and stuff there too? And
we do, actually. Yeah. We're kind of small for that. We only have 3 lesson rooms right now, but I don't know if you've seen any of our social media or anything, but we're actually gonna build a school.
That is so cool.
out back. Yeah. So we're gonna open up our lesson room situation and stuff like that. But
we formed a nonprofit for that.
I mean, that's really encouraging. I mean, like, anytime, I mean, you think of, like, especially like young folks have, like, there's so much more stuff that just competes for everybody's attention now that could just be instantly fun, that anybody who just wants to, like, actually, like, really sit down and learn how to play an instrument. And I mean, that's just, it's great that still happens. I mean,
to be that local music store or community music store was something that just happened because the community really embraced us, because we were really the only music store over here in East Nashville at the time, and the parents and wanted their kids to take lessons, and there was just kind of a community that kind of surrounded us and really took us in, and we were so lucky to have that at the beginning. And Leigh taught. She doesn't have time now, but she taught, and we ran out of room really quickly because of the community. And the first time I always tell the story too. I gotta get new stories. I'm telling the same stories.
You to me. So.
Yeah, no kid. The first time I saw a kid, he rode his bike to the store because it's kind of a neighborhood that we're in, and he had his drumsticks in his back pocket, and I cried. I was like, "This is awesome!"
What a throwback that is, right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah. It was safe enough for him to come here and do that, and that's what we're all about, is providing a safe and comfortable place for people to experience music, whether they want to be whatever, or just want to have a safe place to hang. And so our next phase of that mission is to build a school with a bunch of lesson rooms and music therapy office. And then the second floor will be a smaller little place where we can do workshops and small performances. So we're crazy that way. We're going to build a school in the middle of, no pandemic.
Well, I'll tell you what, that it's totally the way to do it. My friend who still has a music store, the lesson department has like continued to thrive. It's all about it. Really kind of like started out being about the gear, but just turned it the community was just so into it that it just took on a life of its own. Ultimately,
it was really the reason that we started. A music store was to give back in that way, where music and we talked about it. Music and sports really helped us and saved us, and it just made sense, and it's kind of become something larger than that, which I'm excited about because I'm ready to change the world. But I think Leigh is a little more subtle with those things, and I'm doing all the talking. So I'm gonna let Leigh talk now and tell you about the nonprofit.
Oh, please, yeah.
That makes me catch my breath and not know what to say when somebody tells me.
Is that funny how that goes? Like, oh, it's finally my turn. Oh no.
No,
Yeah.
She has the perfect bass player personality. Quiet, back behind the, holding it down, in the pocket. That's Leigh Maples.
Kind of listening to everything,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, part of our inclusivity and being comfortable for everyone, women, children, boys, men, everybody wants a comfortable place to be, and knowing how music is healing and all the different ways that music is too. It's different for everybody, but there's a population that we haven't been able to serve. We don't have the space, and we also couldn't afford it. We do pay for some scholarships for kids. We don't want anybody to not be able to take lessons because they don't have the money. Single parenting is hard. There's a lot of single parents. There's a lot of families that just can't afford it. So by forming a nonprofit and moving our lesson program under that umbrella, we can do so much more.
Oh, that's great.
And there's a senior population that needs to be reached. So that's part of all that.
So we're in the market for anybody that has a lot of money to send us all their money.
Right.
At www.fannyschoolofmusic.org. Right. There you go. There's the plug.
Yeah. Anybody hearing this, if you'd like to support them, please go there. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a lot of money. Everything is welcome. So
yeah, I mean, it's really great, right? I mean, music is kind of like the one language in a way everybody can speak. Even someone you don't have to be a musician to speak it clearly, but I lost your audio. I can't hear you.
Oh,
there we go. There you are. There we go. But I think too, like you were saying earlier, how it gets cut out of the schools and that sort of thing. And I think it's such a short-sighted thing to do, where there's been so many studies that just show that especially young people, how the brain just develops and so much more dramatically when people are exposed to music or doing music. That especially with the focus seemingly on the sciences, that the sciences, that sort of thinking benefits from. It's all part of it, where if you skip that thing,
there's a disconnect between between the science and oh gosh, this is a whole nother show, but a disconnect between people and policy and science.
So I was looking at your website, and I like the fact that it seems like you're primarily focused on vintage kind of instruments and amps, but also I saw the vintage clothing. I'm thinking, well, what a great idea, because you've got musicians around Nashville, and where the hell do they get all that cool clothes to wear on stage?
Exactly.
Am I on the right kind of
yeah?
What gave you that idea? What a great idea!
When we were first opening, I had a friend who was a vintage. She did vintage clothes, and she was a stylist, and I was telling her about the store, and we had kind of this extra space room at the time, and we both kind of had the same idea at the same moment. We were like, oh yes, that's perfect.
Great idea. Yeah.
Music and fashion really do go together, and so we've always had that space we have a different vendor in there now, Pink Star Vintage, and they do different things. But the rock T-shirts are kind of fun.
Yeah.
We're selling those now on our website, actually.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, they have a whole room of different things and some kind of gift little tchotchkes kind of things too. And our store has, because Nashville has grown so much in the last 10 years, our store has become what they call a destination for tourists also. So it gives tourists and other people that maybe aren't into music a place to hang. And as you know, when you, as a musician, when you go into a store with your significant other, they may not be interested in
Right.
in listening to you play over and over and over. So they have
what
something
do you
else to
mean?
do.
Yeah. No.
They have something else to do, which we hear a lot. We hear a lot of people talk about that. So
No, that's a whole other side of it that I immediately went right to the stage clothes side of it. Thinking,
Yeah,
oh,
that
what
too.
a great idea. Hey, I mean, somebody might forget that I've been off playing a guitar for an hour. If they're enamored with, whatever they're enamored with is a great idea. In fact, it's such a cool idea. I don't think I've ever seen anybody combine that before. It just seemed like, man, this is just a genius thing. It just seemed like it made so much
Genius.
sense.
I love that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed like it made so much sense.
Well, again, it kind of just made sense with us being in a house and being different and trying to make things comfortable for everybody,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fun. That we carry vintage, used, and some new things, but we don't have a particular line. Well, we have Dan Electro, I guess. But that's, and Eastwood, but those are all throwbacks,
Oh,
the vintage stuff.
totally. Yeah.
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 So we don't have, the typical wall of Strats and Ellie's and Les Pauls
in every color that they make.
in every color that they make. That really is boring to us. So we just like to be a little more eclectic. We've done really well with affordable vintage. There are 2 other stores here in town that do collectible and really high dollar stuff, and we try to stay away from most of that.
Wow.
We do always have some kind of a Fender P bass or a jazz bass, because that's what some people want, but we really like the weird things, or the
Neither one of us played Fenders. When I played, I played a Rick. I played Rickenbackers, and
Oh, sure. Yeah.
and Leigh played
well, Ibanez, and then
she went to the PV Cirrus.
line.
Yeah.
We both first started on a Fender Music Master.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's right.
Mine
We did. We
was-
both first. Yeah, we lived. She grew up in Florida. I grew up in Illinois, and when we first met, we were like, "What was your first bass?" And she's like,
a
black Fender Music Master," and mine was a
1978.
white Fender Music Master.
Wow.
So yeah,
North and south and yin and
Yeah,
yang going
the
on.
whole thing.
Yeah.
and the
But of
kids
course,
now, they
we bought
love
them.
those.
Ours were new, in 1978.
Right.
Did-
Now
did-
they're
did-
vintage, and kids pay like $800 for them, and they're thumpy, and we don't get it, But
There's no tone.
there's no
it's so
tone at all. But we do have a little collection in the 13 years that we've been open. We've taken home a few, bass players.
Maybe
I think
like one a year.
maybe one a year. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that seems incredibly reasonable.
Not bad, is it?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
incredibly reasonable.
Bass players I don't think they're not like guitar players in that way to me.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
definitely different. At least from what I've seen, and speaking for myself too, I think a bass player is more likely to spend a bunch of money on getting something custom made that specifically suits what they do.
Mm,
Whereas, but again, I don't want to paint with such a broad brush or whatever, but
hmm.
guitar players seem to like, well, I have to have a Telly, and I have to have a Les Paul, and I have to have a Strat, and I have to, you know, like they're trying to check off certain boxes, almost like they're filling a toolbox.
Yeah. Hmm.
You know, more so than just I need this one thing that I can, you know, get my sound with, and you know, it's just kind of a different thing. And that's not true for everybody, but that
That's
seems to
funny
be
because I remember hearing that Leland Sklar's interview, and he takes, you know, he has Cartage take his whole big thing, and he uses the same bass every time, almost on every
yeah.
session.
Yeah,
You know?
that Frankenstein bass with the two really old EMGP bass pickups and the producer
Yeah,
switch that does nothing.
yeah, yeah. He goes, but I look good, you know, and
Yeah,
it looks like I, you know. But
yeah,
we didn't play Fenders because they were too heavy in the mid 70s. Way too heavy, and the necks were real fat, and
Uncomfortable.
yeah.
yeah.
And then a weird thing happened here in the store.
Oh, there's a good one.
Yeah, a guy called and he had found a what do you call it? A Feder, a
Fender
Got
percussion.
that. Or
Fender percussion bass. And he didn't play bass, and but he was an artist, and so he had painted it and done some artwork on it.
cool.
And
In honor of Lemmy.
yeah,
when
of Lemmy
died.
when Lemmy died.
Lemma. Yeah. Oh. Lemmy, everybody.
Oh, there he is.
Oh my
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's funny.
And so he goes, "You're going to be really mad at me because I painted it." And I said, "No, I'm not going to be mad at you." And he said, "Well, I'd like to bring it in." He said, "A friend of mine, we took the neck off, and I think it might be worth something." And I was like, "Okay." I said, "Well, bring it in, and we'll look at it, and we'll, you know, if it's worth something, we'll see what we can do." So he brings it in. We take the neck off, and it was a 78. I'm sorry,
No,
a six,
58.
a 58.
A
Jesus, I know.
58.
I know.
Wow.
A 58 precision bass.
Wow.
And it was very light. And Leigh and I were like, huh, this feels really good. That maybe this is why people played Fenders back in the day. And so I said, I have to find out if I can get this artwork off, because I said it is worth a lot of money. And but I have to find out, you know, whether I can get it off. And I said, so why don't I, you know, I'll offer you this amount, and we'll have the work done and pay for the work to be done, and blah, blah, blah. He goes, well, but how much would you give me today? He bought it for $20 at a yard sale. It was one of those things. Yep. Yep. And in Clarksville,
Wow.
Tennessee, which is where
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hendrix and all the guys were hanging out, you know.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'll give you this today. And he goes, well, let me check with my wife. He checks with his wife. So yeah, okay. So I was like, oh man, this is great. We're gonna make a good amount of money if I can get the artwork off. So the risk was really on me,
Well, for sure.
or on us. But I did give him a good penny for it, because we believe in being fair. Otherwise, you're kind of stealing. So we checked with our luthier. He goes, oh man, I can get it off all except for the paint. He had outlined it with pencil, and that pencil was hard to remove. The pencil, something about the oh, what do you, something in the pencil chemistry.
Something in the pencil.
Yeah.
I don't know, but the paint was ended up not being the most horrible.
Yeah, the paint came off.
So he was able to get it off.
Yeah, but so you can see just a little bit of marks, and I'm like, yay! And then he goes, the luthier was like, it's really nice though. It's making all these other guitars in my shop really sad.
And he said they're scared. They're going and hiding.
They're hiding. And we were like, oh, that's funny, haha, And then we get it to the store. You plug it in, and stuff, the pickups sounded so good that
Oh.
little things started falling from the walls, like that were just stuck there without this particular frequency
Oh,
that these
wow.
pickups
These
did.
pickups.
And
Oh
she
my
goes,
gosh.
and Leigh looks at me and goes, this we're not
We're not
selling
selling
this.
I just happened to have a rehearsal was it that night or the
Oh
next
yeah,
night?
yeah.
And for a couple of songs, and I'm not real big into pedals, I don't know, neither one of us really
Uh-huh.
ever were, but I said, I really need something that'll growl more than what I have for a couple of songs. All I needed was that bass,
Wow.
just,
It's an amazing bass. We've loaned it to other bass players, to play, and they're like, "Are you sure you don't want to sell this?" It's just she's just really special.
it's worn in all the right places,
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody really loved it.
Yeah.
I hate that we don't know whose it was, but
in some ways, the mystery is kind of
we're taking good
cool.
care of it.
Now we have a
Yeah.
Fender.
And now we have a Fender.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Well, I mean, gosh, it's hard to beat a good P bass, right?
Yeah, it kind of does everything you need it to do.
It sure does. I mean,
Mhm.
and engineers know what to do with it.
Yeah, and then there's
that's
that.
the main thing.
I think that's the main thing too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It records really well.
Oh, of course it does. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, everybody had to go through the whole pandemic craziness. Did you have to did you switch over to doing things by Zoom, like lessons and that sort of thing? Like everybody else did? Like how did you deal with keeping everything afloat during that?
Well,
Go ahead. Tell about last year for us.
it started in March. On March 3rd, a tornado came through
Oh
Nashville,
gosh.
came right
Yeah.
down our
Yeah.
street.
Right down our street.
And so that's what closed us down before the pandemic did.
Oh wow.
2 weeks before.
Yeah, it made a slight enough of a turn at our corner that it didn't take our roof off or make the walls cave in. We did have to have, new roof, new doors and windows, new siding, everything, because everything blew out.
It destroyed the whole area. And we were so lucky.
Oh my gosh, the couple of houses across the street are gone.
Wow.
The steeple on the church turned upside down in one of the houses. The dollar store roof a block over was on houses on our street. It was just horrible, but
Lucky to be okay too. Not to mention.
so
goodness.
that for several months was our focus. I mean, we couldn't have been open anyway.
Oh wow.
And so our instructors were already heading towards Zoom because of that.
And they're still on Zoom. We made a decision to wait till fall when the school does go back. And then we'll bring them back.
We didn't have things back in the store from storage until July.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
That's just crazy that you were dealing with that while
Yeah. We call it the tornado virus.
the tornado virus.
Yep. There was no
That's
separation. It was just
Wow.
all madness.
It sounds like madness. Yeah.
Yeah. And we just, a day at a time, just
Right.
kept reevaluating. Okay, what are we going to do today? What do we need to get done today? And then when they decided to open like a few weeks ago, that threw us because we weren't ready for that. I don't think any business was.
I'm honestly still getting used to not having to wear a
Yeah.
mask because it's become like putting on a seatbelt in a sense.
Yes.
It's just this automatic thing. Well, I'm glad you were able to weather that double storm and you're still here and healthy and you guys are still, gosh, I mean, that's just either one of those things would be, bad enough.
Yeah, a little post-traumatic stress, but coming out of it and gratitude is so grounding. And able to help others. We came back actually pretty fast because first of all, we didn't know what to do with ourselves really, but also because we weren't as damaged as a lot of people around us, we felt like it was important for something to be here and something to be open, kind of like a hub of it's okay, we're going to get back. So they're still building back this area. We're getting tourists now, and they're like, what's going on? And we're like, well, there was a tornado.
Wow.
So
Yeah, quite a few businesses just got wiped out.
and they had to make a decision on whether to come back or not, because they couldn't come back. I mean, if it was a restaurant, they couldn't come back anyway. So it's been interesting for sure. And then we decided, well, let's build a school anyway.
Well, I mean, that kind of goes right into gratitude right there. I mean,
Yeah, right.
Here you're coming out the other side of that, and now you're gonna, basically, be help as many people as you can, and
Yeah.
maybe you're making your community better. I think that's amazing. Basically changing lives. You get right down to it. As much as you probably don't want to give yourselves credit for that, but especially get somebody who maybe couldn't have music to that level in their life or something, and making it possible for them. I mean, that's really incredible.
Well, thanks. Appreciate that. We certainly, it's been a journey for us too, so we get a whole lot out of it when a little girl comes in and does a power chord. Let me tell you.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
For the first time, or when I make the mom do a power chord too.
With some good distortion or something.
Yeah. Come on,
yeah.
Be loud. It's all good.
Yeah, that's incredibly cool. In fact, that's something I miss about being at the the brick and mortar store. My friends, I was just because we would have a concert every year. Actually twice a year.
Yeah.
Where it was kind of like a recital essentially. So everybody's was open to the public. It was just great to especially you see kids who started out not they couldn't play anything, and now they're playing something, and you're like, oh man, they're just into it. It
takes you right back to when you first started, doesn't it?
Oh, it sure does. Yeah.
Yeah. It just gives you that feeling of the first time you played in a band or whatever, and it's just that's just all the good stuff.
It is, and you see the confidence grow in them just as a little person.
Mm-hmm. That's what's important.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, that, and it's just there's something about it. There's, especially if you've gone at any point in your life where like if you stop playing for even like a small amount of time, you kind of don't even know like that expressing the unexpressible aspect of it that you're just missing. Then when you get it back, it's just well, it's kind of like an outlet. It's like having a little valve. You can just it's pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm really happy to meet you both, and I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing. And if I'm ever down in the Nashville area, I will absolutely stop in and look you both up and check out and say hi for sure.
Please do.
Again, thank you so much. I guess this is a good place as any to wrap it up. I mean,
all right.
So great. Thank you so much. It was
You're welcome, pleasure. And just let us know when you're in town.
Thank you so much. We're super excited. Frankie and I are working really hard on putting these things together and giving you lots of interviews just like this one. We just need to get some love out there in order to get this podcast surfaced. And thanks for listening.